In this video, I will mainly discuss 4 points. I'll talk about student discipline issues, what the student discipline issue means, and what could be done about student discipline issues. And I will also talk about examples of best practices in dealing with or handling student discipline issues. These are the first 2 topics. The other 2 topics, I'll talk about equal opportunity in education, what it means and its implications, and the last topic will be the best practices of equal opportunity in education. So let's start with trying to define what we mean by student discipline issue. A student discipline issue refers to any behavior that a student comes up with disrupting or that results in the disruption of the educational process. Any educational institution, any school has its mission, vision, and of course educational goals. And students are supposed to help the smooth running of this educational process for their own benefit, for their own learning, for their own education. However, if a student comes up with a certain behavior that hinders or that causes some disruption to the educational process, it is labeled as, or it is known as, a student discipline issue. And the school should, of course, represented by its administrators or teachers, should interfere in order to solve this problem. Of course, student discipline issues or student kinds of misconduct, are different in the level of seriousness. Some discipline issues could do some harm to the one who comes up with the behavior. The student himself, such as cheating or becoming absent for a long time, or not showing up in class, leaving class without permission, violating copyright problems, or simply not doing his or her own assignment. But sometimes the discipline issue or the student misconduct is very serious and could result in some harm, not only to himself or herself, but to others, such as bullying, fighting, battery, damaging school property, vandalism, bringing some inappropriate materials such as pornography or obscene materials, sexual harassment, or having a fight with a student, bringing drugs to the school for use or for distribution, bringing weapons to the school for use or for threatening others. You can see the last few examples I mentioned are very serious, of course, to the student, to the teacher, and to the whole school community. As for the best practices regarding how to handle student discipline issues, we can talk about 3 measures, or we can talk about 3 processes. We can talk about prevention of any negative or bad student misconduct, so that's prevention. We can talk about immediate intervention, and we can talk about also taking some sort of remedial actions to prevent the misconduct or the discipline issue from reoccurrence. Let's start with prevention. The school administration and the teachers should do their best to instill and develop self-discipline into the students' characters. This is through integrating topics about discipline into the curriculum, and through the teacher themselves and the administrators exemplifying positive behavior in dealing with each other and dealing with the students, and trying to maintain a good and a healthy relationship with the students, through positive and good behavior, and by doing their best in creating a healthy and good learning environment. They can also reward examples of good behavior. In this way, they prevent any misconduct from happening, and they reinforce good kinds of behavior. When it comes to when a student comes up with a bad misconduct or some sort of misconduct, then there some sort of interference should be done immediately. This is the second process after prevention. We come to responding to the student misconduct. Of course, responding should be at different levels according to the repetition or the seriousness of the discipline issue. Sometimes the discipline issue can be dealt with within the classroom by the teacher or the teacher's aide. In some other situations, the teacher could ask the help of the head of his own or her own department. And the discipline issue could be taken to a higher level, like referring to one representative of the student discipline committee in the school. And if needed, the discipline issue could be taken to the school principal. And of course, when discussed at all these different levels, there could be... So the discipline issue can be dealt with at different levels, as mentioned before. And the kind of action to be taken in response to the student discipline issue varies according to the seriousness of the misconduct itself. Sometimes, an incident report could be written by the teacher just to document what happened and to draw the student's attention and his legal guardian or parents to the kind of behavior that the student came up with in order to prevent it from reoccurrence. Sometimes we can get the student to write some sort of contract to show commitment that this kind of action or misconduct will not be repeated again. These are, responses to misconduct that's not serious. However, sometimes the reaction itself or the action to be taken could be quite dangerous for the student or could be quite serious based on the misconduct, like suspension for a while or long-term suspension or sometimes actually expulsion from the school and referring him to legal action. So we decide on the kind of action to be taken based on the seriousness of the misconduct. So we talked about prevention, we talked about responding to the misconduct, and the last thing that the school can do to show best practices of dealing with students' misconduct is what we call remedial action. When a student comes up with a bad behavior, a misbehavior, or a misconduct, it should be dealt with, and he should be given some sort of opportunity. He or she can be put in a rehabilitation program. We can refer him to some sort of counseling or some extra courses in order to correct and sort of give him remedial treatment for the problem, for the behavioral problem he's suffering from. And after we are sure that the misconduct is dealt with and the student may not come up with it, he or she can be reinstated in the school and can be given another opportunity in order to to give him an equal opportunity or to give him a chance to learn like all other learners. In the next part, we are going to talk about equal opportunity in education and best practices of equal opportunity. By equal opportunity in education, we mean that all schools and all educational institutions are prevented from treating a particular student or in education or a certain teacher in employment in a different way. In other words, it's a kind of legalization or a legal action that encourages zero discrimination against any particular group of people. So based on religion, race, color, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or language proficiency, like when students come from an immigrant's family and their English proficiency is limited, or even disability. So, of course, it's very important to give all individuals their constitutional rights and treat them fairly in education and in employment. As for best practices regarding equal opportunity in education, institutions should have very clearly written policies in their employment procedure, in their enrollment procedures, showing respect to all different kinds of people, and spelling it out very clearly that there is no discrimination whatsoever in their policies and the procedures associated with these policies. For example, the policies should refer to very important acts such as ADA or IDEA in terms of how to enroll and even employ people with special needs or people with disabilities. The policies should not only be written clearly and in the policy handbook, but they should also be implemented and reviewed and evaluated by people within the school and by external supervisors or observers to make sure that there is consistency between the equal opportunity policies mentioned in the institution handbook or policy manual and the way they are implemented, to write reports and to edit or review the policies if needed. So the best kind of practice that could reflect equal opportunity education is the consistency between what the school mentions in its policy handbook and what the school individuals like the school board, the administrators, and the teachers do to show that they are actually implementing the Equal Opportunity Act in education.